we're back. Alright, we're back. I got some finger wraps on. Got another video coming showing y'all how I've been doing these dry wraps, making little gauze scabs in between the fingers. It's a really tough spot. Anyways, wanted to make this video about just like a summary of my journey with topical steroids, and yeah, how the addiction progressed, how it started, how it progressed, and how I finally came to quitting drugs. Speaking of drugs, gonna roll one up as we chit chat. So I was on topical steroids for the better part of like 28 years. I'm 33 now. I started when I was maybe 3 years old. I don't really know exactly, but just saying sometime around 3 as a toddler. I got on them by the prescription of my pediatrician, who told me and my family basically that if it didn't go away by the time I was like 7 or so, if I didn't outgrow it, then I'll probably have to use this stuff forever and ever. So went with the doctor's advice. It was the safest thing ever, you know, super safe. Just basically the only precaution was don't put it on your eyelids because it can make your eyelid skin real thin or some shit like that. So I was careful for a long time to not put it on my face, even if I had little spots of eczema on my face. But then as the years went on and my face started breaking out more, eventually the doctors were like, actually, now, yeah, put it on your face. So I was dosing myself for a long time. I'd always been kind of suspicious of it. I was like, even as a young child, I questioned. I was like, how good can this be? You know, how can there be no side effects? Blah blah blah. You know, and with probably the same experience as a lot of y'all, the doctor was like, no, you know, don't worry about that. You need to put this on, otherwise, you know, you're basically just hurting yourself. So continued on until, I continued on through my adolescence, through my teenage years, and then into my late teens. It started becoming even more of an issue. In my late teens, it finally started becoming an issue that like really affected my daily life. Throughout my childhood, the eczema was not super severe. It still did like affect how I could play sports and stuff, how much I could sweat and be in contact with like grass and things like that. But it wasn't until my late teens that I started experiencing what I can look back on now and confidently say that's when I started experiencing the symptoms of addiction, some of the red skin syndrome, and then other like oozy crust and stuff like that. Flash forward a couple more years. Started, I think, like when I was like 18 or 19, I started getting the crustache, which was like a clear sign of it. But back then, I still couldn't find a doctor who knew what was going on. I just kept getting prescribed more steroids, more potent applications. For the most part, I was using, throughout most of my adolescence, I was using triamcinolone ointment and cream, as well as hydrocortisone. And then into my 20s, my early 20s, then I started really experiencing like big patches of red skin. It was like clear that it wasn't eczema. And so I was going down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what it was. At the time, there still wasn't very much information online about topical steroid withdrawal. I think I came across a little bit here and there, but it was so still very much in the shadows, and I didn't fully click. I was still trying to figure out all the other things it could be. Like, got to the point where like I had no idea what it could be. It could be like, was it herpes? Was it scabies? Was it just a list of things? Was I allergic to the sun? Is it just allergies in general? All sorts of things. So continued to try to find a doctor, dermatologist who could tell me what was going on, and each person that I encountered basically just said, hey dude, you got really bad eczema. Like, it looks like this is it. This is just your life, basically. And this is what you need to do. Use the steroids. Eventually I started getting it on my palms. I forgot what kind of eczema they call it, but it's like little dots, like little kind of pustule dots. And then I think that was when I first got prescribed like super potent stuff. It was like in my mid-20s. I went to one doctor and he seen my palms, and he was like, oh, I've seen this before. There's only one thing that can fix this. Here's clobetasol, which is like one of the most potent ones. So from there, forgive me if I say these wrong. I don't really actually know the right spelling off the top of my head, pronunciation, but mid-20s then I started getting clobetasol, also like something like mometasone in like a alcohol solution for my face, something like fluocinoside or something for my scalp, all super potent, as well as throughout most of my life, when it got really bad, I would then get a shot of prednisone or an oral regimen of prednisone plus some antibiotics to go with it. A nice little cocktail. And that was pretty much the cycle for most of my life. I'd be like hydrocortisone, triamcinolone, really bad flare, injection or pills, and then it would reset, allow myself to gain a tolerance to the lower strength steroids, and I'd go on this carousel until I start getting even the more potent ones. And that went on until my early 30s, and then at the end of 2021, I had started experiencing again like really severe red skin, and it was getting really bad, but I was only using hydrocortisone. So somehow I tapered down from all those really potent ones. I think I might have used I can't, it's so fuzzy to recall. I probably got on some regimen of like oral prednisone, maybe some antibiotics, in like the year right before that. So say like 2019, 2020. And then from there, I had to ease back into using topicals, hydrocortisone. But then something kept me from going again to the next steps. Thankfully, I think that helped is, so like most of my life I was on this like just increasing frequency and dosage, and then tapered down. I changed my environment too. Environment I found has had a lot to do with how I'm flaring. So I grew up mostly in the desert, which had always been really hard, and I always found that when I went to fairly humid climates, that things seemed to just be better in general. So when I started getting off of the really strong ones, I had moved to. I'd been working in like Northern California, up in the Redwoods and Mendocino, and also in Southern Oregon, on some farms up there. And the environment, I think, is, like I said, also contributed to being able to get off of the really strong ones and only have to rely on hydrocortisone. But I had started using hydrocortisone like very frequently and all over my body. Like I'd be buying, I don't even know the size of tube. It'd be like a 4-5 ounce tube. Like now they make big ones, which also is disturbing when I really think about it. Now they make the like kind of bigger tubes of hydrocortisone, yeah, like 4 or 5 ounces. And I would just basically be using it like lotion. Like my entire body was the red skin, so it was a full body application like every time I'd shower, and more throughout the day. So I finally reached a breaking point in the beginning of 2022. I was here starting my farm and started really going mad. I was full body flare, losing tons of sleep, incredible discomfort, and I'm just gonna say this because fucking people need to know all the weird shit that can happen. So I started experiencing my rectum feeling itchy, which is, now I see, that's also a sign of topical steroid addiction. Thank you, Doja. Hey, that's enough. So I started experiencing itchiness down there, and I started applying the hydrocortisone in and around there, which is a terrible idea. Not only was I getting it inside of my body there, which is a very permeable area, like if you put something up there, it goes straight into your bloodstream. I was also like just rubbing it into my eyes too, and I was getting it like inside my eyes basically as well. So I started experiencing like a lot of like I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt like I was going crazy, and I think that has to do with the systemic introduction of the hydrocortisone. So I had really lost my shit. Like the door's open right now, but my door has a little window right there. At one night I literally put my head through the window, losing my mind. Like I smashed the window with my head. Thank God it did not slice my neck open or something crazy, or stab me at my eyeballs, or like, oh, super disturbing time. And then there's one night that I was watching a movie. I was up. I was like, there's kind of debating on if I should try to keep forcing myself to sleep or if I should get up, watch a movie. Thank God I decided to get up and watch a movie, because what I ended up watching is a movie called Awakenings and it stars Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. Robin Williams is a physician. Robert De Niro is a patient experiencing like this rare unknown illness. And there's a clip in there where Robin Williams' character is talking about using. In the movie, he ends up using this drug that I think is for maybe cerebral palsy or something. He has this idea that maybe this drug can work for these patients, for this thing that they're experiencing. And then there's like a small monologue where he's talking about like the unintended side effects or the consequences of using new drugs in new ways. And he actually references how ingesting cortisone, one of the side effects is psychosis. And it like all hit me. I like instantly started thinking about like it all the dots started connecting. I instantly started thinking about like the few times in the years past where I did read about TSW and TSA and red skin syndrome and stuff. But then at years past, I closed the book on it, and I kind of closed the book on it just before it started really coming to surface. So I kind of missed the boat there. But then I seen this film, and it all clicked. So I paused the movie. It's like 3 a.m. Pause the movie, and then I start just researching again. You know, I kind of just like gave up after in those most recent years. I just gave up trying to figure out what it was, and I just submitted to like the idea of this is just forever, and I got to learn how to just accept needing these medications. So then I go into research, and like out of nowhere, there's all this information about TSW, all this information about the side effects and the addiction symptoms, and at that point it becomes so severe and so like the symptoms are so iconic and like identifiable in comparison to what I was now seeing online. It was super clear to me that this is what I had been experiencing for a long time. I was finally absolutely sure. And so that night, I stopped using steroids. After seeing that, I just thought I'd never put them on again. Never ingested them again. Whoo! I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Oh man, honest to God, I was like super confident in my vitality, my vital forces. I was like, I'm gonna get through this in 3 weeks. It's just gonna be itchy. I can put up with itchy. It'll be okay. Oh, was I in for a surprise? Yeah, that the very next day, the bags under my eyes started weeping. Like it was just like, you know, like it was just started turning raw right here and weeping. And that scared the shit out of me. I was like, this is gonna be really bad. This is gonna be really bad. But I stuck with it, and I'm super grateful to have stuck with it. It was a long time of going through the cycles of addiction. Started experiencing all sorts of weird symptoms. Like I was getting inflammation in my eyes, and I don't know what it was, but I was like, there was these like mucus strings. I don't know if it was like yeast colonies. I don't really know what was going on, but I was getting this really blurred vision and these strings like in my eyes that I would have to like extract, and I'd pull them out, and like they would be like these long strings of, I don't know, it was like a kombucha SCOBY. It was like this like squishy, strong but squishy stuff that I'd pull out of my eyes like every single day. My scalp, like I thought I had seborrheic dermatitis on my scalp, which, I mean, like, by definition, I guess you could diagnose that as seborrheic dermatitis, but then I also had the, I've been trying to remember what this is for a couple days now, but I also was experiencing another form of eczema that was like those little pustule dots. Experiencing that, seborrheic dermatitis, the strings in my eyes, and yeah, I was really at a loss. And all that stuff went away after quitting the steroids, as well as a bunch of allergies. So for most of my 20s, I had become really allergic to dogs. I'd become really allergic to cannabis plants, like getting it on my skin, breathing in like dry material, like in a trim room or something. I'd start getting really bad asthma. I was having asthma problems sleeping. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with just unable to gasp for a breath, just like feeling that feeling of dread, just wake up and and like try to stay calm, breathe. all sorts of symptoms, that each doctor that I went to had like a new bright idea of what it could be, and then everybody came back to the same solution, which was the problem. Go figure. So yeah, 28 years of use, all sorts of strengths, all sorts of methods of delivery. And then finally got off them. Quit in 2022 in February. I quit in February of 2022. It's now 20 months later, and I think I'm over the worst of it. I do see other people who do go back into flares after years of being in a healed state, so that's always a possibility. But fingers crossed. I think that if I continue to stay on kind of partial NMT now, I think it was important to do the full NMT protocol to heal, to heal. But I'm also starting to see that continuing to apply some of those principles in my life moving forward might be the best way to prevent any future flares, as well as continued exercise. Exercise, I think, is one of the most important things we can do for this process. Increasing metabolism, increasing cell turnover rate, stoking the hormonal fires, just getting the entire body working. So that's it. That's it. Just my entire life, So I think that's all I got for y'all. That's like 25 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. I'll be happy to answer, or maybe even make a future video about it. Right now I'm kind of just brain dumping. So yeah, that was my experience. That was my journey thus far. I feel like I'm missing a lot. I feel like I'm like left out a bunch of stuff, but there'll be future videos. More explaining, more explanations, more diving down the rabbit hole. But yeah, very grateful to be here now. Yeah. Peace.